It's August 28th, 2025. Today is Thursday. Every day we have a word of the day for you. Every day since we've started this show, which was back in October of 2019. Haven't missed a word of the day. There is no word of the day today. I am starting with a reminder. And I am not asking for your thoughts. I'm not asking for your prayers. Don't want them. And you shouldn't offer them. For what happened in Minneapolis. You may ask me which one. There were so many shootings yesterday in Minneapolis. The one I'm focused on is the person who decided to shoot up a Catholic school during a mass, killing children, sending a bunch of other children to the hospital, and sending everybody who was there into a lifetime of trauma. Their life is different today. The ones who managed to survive, their life is forever different at young age. We learned about what this shooter, the hatred this shooter had, and it got me thinking. It's complete anti-Semite, anti-Trump. It was a transgender. And I was thinking throughout the day and night how to do it because I have not been able to do my job. And I thought a couple years ago that I would try to make a difference, and Coke and I would interview people and ask them to help us get the word out about voting for people and understand voting records. And we interviewed a bunch of people, and I couldn't follow through because I didn't have the capacity, and I didn't exactly think through what the job would entail, what was needed. I've asked you to vote. I've asked you to understand the issues and then decide for yourself where you stand on gun control, the Second Amendment, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom, period. I've asked you to think about allocation of resources to defend our borders versus defending ourselves within those borders versus getting involved in fights that are happening elsewhere in the world. Threats to democracy. Man, we've gone through it all. 50 years ago was the 1970s. Go back longer than that. You can go back to Vietnam. You can go back to Korea. You can go back to World War II. You can go back to the Cold War. You can go back to the Bay of Pigs. You can go back to the Revolutionary War, for crying out loud. You can go back to when cavemen decided they were going to fight over which rock they were going to sleep under. Doesn't matter. We can go back. You can go back to the start of the gun if you want. We can talk about muskets. How about that? If you want to talk about guns and how they've evolved. There's something that hasn't really evolved much. It's existed from the beginning of time, and that is hatred and jealousy. Two emotions. We talk, you can go watch Seven if you want, but we talk about what it is to be a human being, what it is to have emotion. Criticize David for being all wiry and not emotional. And you just have to think a little bit about what happens with emotion, what happens with certain adjectives, certain feelings that we have, and then what the result is. And then we can excuse it by saying it's an outlier. This is a sick person, definitionally. This should not have happened. We cannot allow for guns to be purchased for automatic, for any sort of rifles. We can't allow for handguns. We can't allow for knives. We can't allow for children under 18 to vote, gamble, or drive, or drink. We have an entire society that started with zero rules. When a car was invented, there were no seatbelts. People started dying, and they said, wait a minute, why don't we put seatbelts in the car? And we said, well, that's expensive. Well, all right, let's do it. There are myriad topics we could talk about where there has been evolution. We could talk about AI. How about that? You want to mention AI and the fact that there are bots that are advising kids on how they can kill themselves? We could do that. We could talk about things that are good for a child, not good for a child. We could spend an hour talking about Juuls and how the government said, you know what, Juuls, that's marketing to kids. They're going to get hurt. God forbid they vape with Juul, because that's the biggest thing we have to help them with. And please, let's not legalize marijuana. So a society, by definition, is going to have bad actors in every sector. The question is, Do we have the ability? Do we have the desire, other than a former president tweeting out, hey, unacceptable thoughts and prayers? Current president, pray for the people of Minnesota. Doesn't matter, Democrat, Republican, because you can't run on a platform of killing Catholic kids on either side of the aisle. So it turns out that the only commonality of interest is when the event is so horrific that it boggles the mind, and there is actually no political gain to be made by anyone taking a position other than this can happen. The difference then becomes when you say this can happen and then you don't act, or you say this can happen and then you do act. Maybe that's the difference in the two political sides. And maybe that's where I come in and I say, I thought I was acting by using the platform to try to educate, to try to help, to try to get people to understand what the issues are, what they actually are. And I'm trying to do a sports business show. Turn on a news show and you're getting the same slanted coverage from every channel, trying to make sure that you understand how horrific this act is from the lens of the person who's delivering the news to you. I don't want that lens. I want people to understand and look at this act and come to an independent conclusion that this behavior, what can we do to stop it? What is the deterrent? You see, I'm a man of great belief in deterrence. You know that I'm a consequentialist. I want to understand what it is that we can do that would stop someone who, no matter how sick they are, how do you access what is needed to just murder children? Are you going to tell me that you're willing to sacrifice these children or anybody, anyone? We have an expectation, I do at least. I have an expectation that I can go to synagogue, I can go to church, I can go to the grocery store, I can go to a movie, I can get on an airplane, and I don't want to have to worry about being shot like I'm living in a war zone where there's no war that's visible to me. It's just undercovers. I'm not against the government looking into what I'm doing when I'm doing it. I'm not covering the camera on my laptop. What are they going to see? What are they going to hear? Nefarious texting? Don't we have a responsibility to try to stop events when we have the power to stop them? It doesn't matter what the event is. I'm not necessarily talking about school shootings. Don't we have the obligation to stop a tragedy? This is a lot like Minority Report. And I remember when I watched that movie, Minority Report, and there was all sorts of debate. And it got closed down in the movie because what if there's a bad report? What if someone screwed with the report? It's like we heard in sports. We can't unguarantee a contract because of steroids because owners are going to put different pee in the cup when the player stinks. A Minority Report, that may be ignored. Or there could be someone who says, oh, this crime is going to happen, lock this person up. Yeah, that's true. There are innocent people in prison today. But isn't there a certain amount that we are willing to accept in order to avoid a greater amount of the pain? Don't we spend our entire life negotiating with ourselves what the downside is of certain actions we take, and then we make decisions to proceed or not to proceed based on the result that we think is going to happen, knowing that the result we think is going to happen may not happen, but it's a chance we're willing to take? What chance are you willing to take? Maybe that's it. Maybe none of us are willing to take the chance that any of our privacy will be so impeded that some of the things that we do that no one wants to see the light of day, that secrecy is way more important than making sure that things like this crazy person who now sickeningly is dead, so will never be brought to justice, that our privacy is so important that this is just part of what can happen and we are fine with it. Okay. If that's your position, fine, but then you can't be outraged. You can't say thoughts and prayers. It's not allowed. If you go into an activity where the result is it would be like me going skydiving, the parachute not opening, me landing on the ground dead and saying, wow, didn't realize that could happen. It's idiocy, isn't it? When you undertake a belief or an activity where a result, however unlikely it is totally predictable, then you don't get to complain about the result when it was the unlikely result that occurred. What is it about yesterday's shooting in Minneapolis that we can't have predicted? Are we not paying attention? There's shootings every day, mass shootings, school shootings, kids shot every day. More so here in America than any other country. Predictable? To me, it's as predictable as the sunrise. Outcome? Predictable. Doesn't mean it's going to happen every time you go to the store, every time your kid goes to school, every time your kid goes to camp. And it's not like a natural disaster where you send your kid to a camp, all of a sudden the great flood comes and your kid doesn't come back. I'm not talking about natural disasters, hurricanes, earthquakes, floods, all of the things. You want to debate global warming? Not here, not now. No, thank you. Natural disasters, not what I'm talking about. There's nothing natural about being shot. Nothing. It's only predictable. So I would just as soon, if you don't mind, I would just as soon have you tell me that you're fine. And when I say you, I mean the audience. I mean the people who are producing and writing for TV. I mean people at their dinner table, people at their job. I would rather everyone just say, you know what? This is the cost of doing business. It's the price of a free society. It's a price of having a constitution that we believe in and we understand what that Second Amendment is. That's the price we pay. How about that? Why can't people come out and say that? Our elected officials, your teachers, professors, friends, coworkers. I think that would be the way more effective way to go. Hey, man, I know that stinks, but sometimes the parachute doesn't open. I think I'd probably be more able to understand what happens with people and try, because I have a very hard time understanding how people think. I really do. I test it all the time versus what I think and how I do calculations. I always think, am I the 99 to 1 or am I the 1 or am I the 99? In this case, I must be the 1 because there must be everyone else. The other 99 out of 100 people are saying, obviously, David, of course, this is part of the price we pay, but we do it willingly, openly, understandingly, and we accept. Do you remember when we talked about the stages of grief on a recent show? We talked about denial. We talked about acceptance. Where are we in the stage of kids getting shot? What stage are we in? Just tell me so I know, and maybe I won't have to talk about it. I can't stand when the trajectory of people's lives change through an act that they did not take. I am less sympathetic when trajectory changes based on predictable outcomes or possible outcomes that could be predicted. I try to have great empathy to understand the families in Minneapolis and the fact that that's it. There is before yesterday and after yesterday, a line in the sand that will never be washed away by the tide, a line in the sand that will never in any way fade, ever, no matter the age. I can't stop thinking about it. I can't sleep for various reasons. But the thing that got me last night was trying to understand how best to communicate to you what it is that I'm thinking, because you're going to be inundated with it. And then half the people say, hey, we just want our sports here. We just want our business here. We need a word of the day. We count on you, David, and we got to deliver that. It would be like a clown going out in the circus after an event and saying, wow, that was a tough hurricane. Nope, the clowns just go out and keep juggling. Maybe that's what I'm supposed to do. Just keep juggling. That's it, Coca. Of course, sports business continues. And of course, I'm doing a show. And of course, in my mind, I said, okay, 15 minutes is all in a 2-hour show because of course I calculated it that way, because of course I'm thinking to myself, that's about what the audience would grant me. Although I'd maybe want to talk about it for 1 minute or 100 minutes or not talk at all because I'm so angry and so despondent and just hurting. Like my stomach hurts. And my stomach doesn't hurt for people I don't know. I don't like when people say that. My stomach hurts for what? It's all about me. I'm selfish. What would happen if my kid were shot and killed at school? What? 15 minutes, not 16. Okay. Micah Parsons. What's the I'm alone on a show. There's no transition. Just do it, David. All right. Here we go, Coca. 4869. Micah Parsons is really something. This whole Dallas Cowboys situation, I'm not Jerry Jones'd out because I love you, Jerry. You help create me. You complete me. Micah, I don't know if you have a bad back. I don't know if you're lying on the sideline. I do know that when we have players hurt and they're going to be prone for the game, we tell them to stay in the training room. We would prefer them not to be in the dugout lying down. As a matter of fact, 18 years, Coca, never had a player lie down in the dugout. I've seen a lot of stuff. Uget Urbina used to take a nap in the training table until the 5th inning every single game. Every game. 2 teams I had him on. The only 2 teams I was a part of. Every day. Never in the bullpen, never in the dugout. Micah Parsons was prone on the sideline, claiming he had an issue with his back. Of course, he got an MRI, and of course, Coach Schottenheimer said, "Hey, the MRI's clean." And of course, Micah Parsons said, "Hey, I'm going to get a second opinion." But this Parsons Cowboys thing is getting even uglier because we just found out that Micah Parsons filed a grievance against the NFL and the Cowboys, and it interests me greatly. Here's the grievance, and this is according to Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk, Calvin Watkins of the Dallas Morning News. They claim that Parsons filed a lawsuit earlier this year regarding his 5th-year option salary. Quick reminder, when you are drafted and you're a rookie in the NFL and you're in the first round, you get a 4-year deal with a 5th-year option. That 5th-year option has to be picked up after the 3rd year. And so we read about quarterbacks having their option picked up, or cornerbacks, or safeties, or linemen, or whatever. And the way the CBA works is the cost of the 5th-year option is PD, position dependent. Micah Parsons, what position does he play? If you've never seen Micah Parsons, you may not know. He is the premium defender, defensive end, edge rusher, linebacker. Those are different positions. He's actually listed as a defensive end. He considers himself a linebacker, and the quarterbacks would say, "My God, you look and smell like an edge rusher." He won Rookie of the Year in 2021 as a, wait for it, linebacker. But the money that he's being paid this year is about $21 million, a little more, $21.3 million. I'd hate to have a rounding error of $324,000 because that's a lot of cash. So his 5th-year option of $21.324 million was picked up, except what Micah Parsons believes is that they are paying him as though he is a defensive end, and he is saying, no, I'm a linebacker. And you're saying, what the hell is the difference? Everybody's moving around, the front 7, the side 7, the top 3, bottom 3. Where's he coming from? Blind side, I broke my finger. Now I'm not the starting quarterback, Daniel Jones is. All of that stuff is true. But the CBA says you got to have a position that's chosen because that's how we decide what your money's going to be. As a defensive end, the number was 21.324, given his accolades and his performance. But if they listed him as a linebacker, he would have made $24 million. That would have been the number. So Micah Parsons said, hey, I don't agree. I'm filing a grievance. You've mischaracterized my position. I want to be paid the $24 million, not the $21.3 million. And this led me to think about baseball. How great would it be in arbitration if you're a catcher and you get into the arbitration room and you say, no, no. I mean, you may think I'm a catcher. You may look at my equipment and see me squat behind the plate for 9 innings. But let me tell you something. I'm a starting pitcher. The reason why this kind of stuff can't happen in baseball is that there are comps. There are comps based on games played at certain positions. It is easy to know whether you're a catcher or whether you're a first baseman or whether you're a starting pitcher. I get to look at the stats. I get to look at the box score. Do you think football doesn't have the stats and doesn't know where Micah Parsons lined up during the course of every single snap that he played? You can bet your sweet bipsters. Do you think when the union agreed to the fifth-year option and when they agreed that it would be positional, if you're a quarterback, you get paid more than if you are a defender, than if you're an offensive line, on and on, all the way down to being on the bench. How does this grievance get heard within football when Micah Parsons is claiming that he's one position and the team is claiming and the NFL designated him as a different position? Don't we agree that the facts are the facts? Well, here's the problem in football. No matter where you line up, you may line up like a defensive end and play like a linebacker. You may line up a few feet behind the line of scrimmage like a linebacker, but you end up rushing and being like an edge rusher. Or you may be a defensive end and then all of a sudden you are nose to nose with the center. One of the things that we love to watch about whether it's Lawrence Taylor or everyone since Lawrence Taylor is that you just don't exactly know where he's coming from, but wherever it is, you better find him. Have you ever seen the offensive lineman, which is not easy to do in their 4-point stance, 3-point stance or 4-point stance? I think it's a 3-point stance when they are down and then they sort of with their abs somehow are pointing at the line of scrimmage. Hey, you got him. I got him. You got him. Where the hell is he? Where's Micah? It's the most commonly asked question when you play the Cowboys. Where's Micah? So I got a solution. The union, under their new fantastic leadership, has to find a way, in addition to trying to get more guarantees and maybe even fully guaranteed contracts, good luck, they got to find a way to eliminate this positional fifth-year option stuff when the position can be difficult to ascertain. If it's going to be quarterback, easy. Like in baseball, it's easy. But on the defensive side, not easy. Well, David, it's very easy. The difference between a safety and a cornerback and a front seven guy, that seems easy. Lining up outside the slot every time, outside the line of scrimmage, outside the lineman, that should be one way to characterize it. But there are times when a rusher, you can have a corner blitz. You just have all sorts of positional changes on the defense. Why don't we come up with better stats? We got a million of them. We can have efficiency. We can have tackling. We can have turnovers. We can have percentage of plays, snaps in the game. Myriad different ways to calculate. This grievance is a brutal one, and I just don't know whether Micah Parsons wants to settle. Because remember, whether his pay is 21.3 or 24, is that the difference in him being a holdout or not? If he had gotten the 24 million, would he have just played? Well, I don't know. He got off the phone with Trey Hendrickson, who said, don't play at all. They'll just pay you more to play this year. No problem. Coke, I can't understand why the Trey Hendrickson news is not bigger news. I must be, like with everything in this show today, I must be missing something. Getting paid extra to do nothing extra. Holy Christ. That is an unbelievable accomplishment. If Micah can find a way possible. Side note, the NFL itself. Well, actually, Coca, it may be ESPN now. But NFL.com lists Micah Parsons as a linebacker. How great is that? But the Cowboys are paying attention. They list him as a defensive end. That's a $3 million difference, baby. Thank God Tom Brady is back. That's just huge news for all of us that Tom Brady's the number one analyst on Fox. Can't wait to watch him game one. I'm in. See the improvement from year one to year two, from week one of last year to week one of this year. Everyone will do the compare, contrast. There's been great growth. The preparation, the level of seriousness, everything's improved. I must say that I had this completely wrong. I did not think that he would continue at Fox for a second year, even though it's a tremendous amount of money he's being paid, like an ungodly sum. Way to go. I don't begrudge it. Yesterday it came out that the NFL is amending their Brady broadcasting restrictions. It's like when baseball makes special rules for Ohtani. That's what we have in place right now with Tom Brady. He has special broadcasting rules. Do you remember? Because he's the owner of the Raiders. Now, I don't mean to impugn Mark Davis. Sorry. I'll say it more accurately to make sure that people understand. Tom Brady's a limited partner in the Raiders. And the NFL last year said, you want to be a broadcaster? That's fine. But guess what? You can't go to practices. You can't go to production meetings. You can't do anything other than go to the game and talk about it. And you better be careful what you say. Well, the NFL said, we're going to relax these Brady rules because Tom Brady's been doing it great. We're going to now allow him to attend production meetings. Whew. That is major. Now, he still can't go to practices. He still can't meet with the game's head coaches and key players. He can only do that remotely. Oh, the NFL makes me laugh. What exactly? It was like big news. What did they allow him to go to a production meeting? Do you know what a production meeting is? Because we have them every day. A production meeting is when Coke and I sit down and we talk about every topic, and we're back and forth throughout the day with Jack. Do you like this topic? Do you like this topic? Should we talk about it this way? What's your thought about that, David? What's your thought about that? Coco, what do you think about that, Jack? All right, how about this order? I think the audience would really be excited to hear this, but let's wait till after the break. Oh, let's put these two things together. No, Matt Caldwell going to the Timberwolves is not related to the shooting in Minnesota, so talk about them separately. That's a production meeting. Those are very strategic. We do them pre-production. We do post-production. We do all sorts of meetings. Thank God that Tom Brady's going to be in those meetings because that's going to help him with his preparation. Nope. The NFL, they're still not letting him do the things that Fox should demand of a number one analyst. To be in the meeting with the coaches, to be around the players, to be around the practices is to get yourself prepared in order to make the viewing experience the best possible for the audience, to add value as an analyst. That's your job. Stories about when you were young, fine, I'm in. You can ride those for a career. But the actual analysis of the games is going to matter, and having insight, not just as a former quarterback, but as what's going on today with those teams, it matters. Why won't the NFL relax those rules? The answer is quite simple. Because he can't do both. I'm tired of the contortions that the NFL and Fox and Tom Brady are doing to try to do a job where you are the limited partner, which means you're really running the football operation of the Raiders and you're the number one analyst for Fox Sports. But there's so much codependence between these groups, Fox and the NFL, so much money involved. God forbid that we take a position that could be against Fox or against Tom Brady. No way, can't do that. We're going to actually go the other way. We're going to announce that we've become nice. We found God. We've relaxed the restrictions. Way to go. You can go to a production meeting. Super excited about that. No matter the day, the review goes on. Welcome to the review. Every Thursday, and today is Thursday, I remind you, it's Thursday, August 20th. Every single Thursday, we are reviewing a movie from my list of top 100 movies. My list of top 100 movies can be found at davidsamsonpodcast.com. There's a document that has everything. Go enjoy it, enjoy the merch, enjoy 100 Thursdays of these reviews. Today, I'm reviewing Moulin Rouge. Moulin Rouge came out 24 years ago, and I remember watching it for the first time as though it were yesterday. And I've watched it, this is not an exaggeration, I have watched Moulin Rouge 75 times. My guess is I would take the over if I were to actually count the number of times I've watched it all the way through. That means only 3 times a year over 24 years, a little more, 5 times a year. Oh, for sure. I watch this every 2 months. Yes, I do. Moulin Rouge, I've seen it on Broadway as well. Yeah, look at me. Wouldn't it be unreal to go to a Broadway play? It's amazing. A Broadway musical. Moulin Rouge is about the underworld in Paris in the 1800s. It's about what's going on there with the Moulin Rouge in the 1900s it's basically exotic dancing. The Moulin Rouge is still open now. It's like a sex show without actual sex, but it's just sexy people, men, women dancing. There's courtesans involved whose job is to make you think they love you when they actually don't. Nicole Kidman plays a courtesan like no one's played a courtesan before. I would argue in the history of cinema, there have been a lot of courtesans, a lot. And I have her above Julia Roberts. The music takes into account current day songs and it works them into the thread of the plot. There are characters that are so fascinating in Moulin Rouge. The story moves so well. It is a story about love, which I love. It's a story about tragedy. It's a story about feelings, about connection, about performance. I don't know how to suggest Moulin Rouge anymore. It is in my top 5 and will remain in my top 5. Next Thursday, we are going to review The War of the Roses. People know this, I think, Coca. Yep, before I asked the mother of my children, my wife, to marry me, I went to take her to see The War of the Roses. Yep, that should have said it all. I'm going to finish up today, Coca. I'm in the middle of a mini-series called Hostage. I've only got one ep left. I'm going to finish it. It's a 5-episode arc. I'm going to watch episode 5 and then review Hostage tomorrow. Nothing personal pick of the day. Welcome to the Nothing Personal Pick of the Day presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Aaron Nola and the Philadelphia Phillies are coming off a sweep of the Mets in New York where they can't seem to win a game. They are counting on their new ace. It's not Sanchez. It's not Suarez. It's not Wheeler. It's got to be Aaron Nola. He's back and he's got to stop a losing streak. That's what you count on from a number one. It's very heavy at minus 193 on DraftKings, odds subject to change, but they're not in New York anymore. They are so happy to be out of New York, I can't even tell you. When you're a baseball team and you know you can't win in a place because you lose and lose and lose and lose, you can't wait to get out, and then you've got your best pitcher on the mound and you want to pounce. Aaron Nola and the Phillies minus 193 over the Atlanta Braves. That is the Nothing Personal Pick of the Day presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. We went for it on the underdog yesterday. I got a DM, Coca, from an audience member yesterday or today. I can't remember when. And I happened to see it at David P. Samson. Try it. I don't see them all. Who said that what they do is they bet underdogs only in baseball, and they're up a bunch of units. I have no proof that it works. I have no proof that it doesn't work. All I know is that I tried an underdog last night. Reds plus 168 over the Dodgers. Ohtani pitched a hell of a game. He's up to 87 pitches, 5 innings. The offense of the Reds, they're screwed. For Mets fans who thought that it wasn't meant to be and that the Reds were going to catch them and they were totally panicked about the Reds, and I thought this would be a great opportunity to get a huge, huge, huge underdog number at plus 168. And then I wake up and realize that the Reds are 4.5 games behind the Mets all of a sudden, fading like a comet. So needless to say, we did not win. We are now 113 and 110. You think the Brewers are panicked The Milwaukee Brewers lost their closer. Man, Megill's been good, hasn't he? If you've watched the Brewers, he's got 30 saves. His ERA is 2.5. Everything's been great. The Brewers are firing on all cylinders. They have the best record in baseball, and it's not necessarily close. Toronto and Detroit have 78 wins. The Brewers have 83 wins. The Brewers are 5.5 games better than the Dodgers in the race to have the best record in the National League. And we are not early in the season anymore. There are under 30 games left. The Brewers have played 134 games. 28 games to go, a 5.5 game lead. But now their closer is on the injured list. If you've been paying attention to the Brewers, which I hope by now you have, you realize their bullpen's nasty and deep. You realize that they will be very fine without Megill. It is not going to enable the Dodgers to catch them. The Brewers are not going to fade. Does it mean the Brewers are going to lose in the first round now? Again, are people in Milwaukee panicking? Stop. Good news, bad news. The good news is you've got the people in place to win the 11 games that you will need to win in order to win the World Series. The bad news is that the closer who you love seeing at the end of the games, he's done for the year. Now, they're not announcing that yet, Coca. They're saying that, hey, he's just on the IL. We're going to wait to see. He's got the old, say it with me. It starts with F. What is it? Flexor strain. Flexor strains are very bad. Very bad when you're a pitcher. Very bad when you're Aaron Judge, but manageable because you can sort of hit like the way Ohtani hit after Tommy John. But when you're a pitcher, nope. That's it. When you have the flexor strain at the end of August, we don't announce that the player's out for the season. We'll do something else that's funny. We'll say, yeah, he's out 4 to 6 weeks. And then we'll hope that people don't do the math. Well, wait a minute, 4 to 6 weeks. Holy criminy, there's only 4 weeks left in the season. So he's out for the season. Why wouldn't we just say he's out for the season? Because that sounds so permanent. It sounds terrible, doesn't it? He's out for the rest of the season. When there's a week to go and a guy like stubs his toe, we still wouldn't announce that. When you're in the last week of the season, Coca, and a guy like has a hangnail, we would say, yeah, he's out 7 to 10 days. It's so funny. Yeah, sir, there's only 4 days left in your season. I know, but this is really a 7 to 10 day thing. Well, doesn't that mean he's out for the season? No, it's 7 to 10 days. Coke, I'm so sure about this with Megill that just make it a wait to see, please. Put it in the document, wait to see when we tell you something's going to happen. If it does, great. If it doesn't, fine. I'll revisit it. Je te promis. Wait to see. Trevor Megill will not pitch another inning in 2025. Period. That's it. He will not pitch another inning. You do not come back from a flexor strain that quickly. Hold on, Coca. Before we start the next segment, I just want to go online and I want to reserve a trademark. Let me just see if I can do it here. My plan is to reserve the trademark Gold Digger. Hold on. Let me just do it right now as quick as I can. Okay. It's very easy, actually, if you want to reserve a trademark, if you want to file a trademark application. You just have to say what you want it for. I want to do Gold Digger. I love Gold Digger. I mean, who doesn't love a Gold Digger? And I want to make keychains. Then I want to make jewelry. This is a funny one, folks. Bill Belichick and his girlfriend, Jordon Hudson, have filed a trademark for Gold Digger. Do you get it? People think Jordon Hudson's a gold digger because she's in her 20s and he's in his 70s and they're together and they're madly in love like Anna Nicole Smith style and they're leaning into this. She runs his business. She runs his life. We have no idea whether he's Copus Mentai. We have no idea what's happening other than there's a quarterback who's going to start for North Carolina and it's going to be a hell of a season with the reality show. However, what we do know is that a company controlled by Belichick and Jordon Hudson. It's called TCE Rights Management, and Jordon Hudson's in charge of it. They filed this trademark application for gold digger. I want to give you the definition of a trademark so you can decide for yourself. I want you to be the examining attorney on this deal, because that's how it works. You file a trademark application, and then an examining attorney looks at it and says, a trademark is a word or phrase or logo that can be used so that the customer can understand that everything from that trademark is from the same source or is affiliated with that source or licensed or sponsored by that same source. What do I mean? If you don't understand that definition. Hey, can I have a Kleenex, please? Look, they're not a sponsor, so I'm going to be quick about this. I have a Kleenex. Do you know what a Kleenex is? Because it's not this. This is a facial tissue. Kleenex is a brand. Hold on, I got to go Xerox today's rundown. Do you know that Xerox is not a word? It's a made-up word. Those are the best kind to trademark. Kleenex, a made-up word. Xerox is a trademark. Trademark is when you come up with something and there's got to be no confusion about what's what and who's who. I think there's a lot of confusion when I pick up a tissue that's from a non-brand name and I say, hey, pass me the Kleenex, and everyone knows how to pass the Kleenex, except I'm getting something from Kirkland that makes my nose raw and requires me to buy some sort of ointment like Neosporin. Bill Belichick and Jordon Hudson have zero chance of getting the trademark to Gold Digger, not because I can't figure out the difference between golddigger.com, which is a adult site, or Gold Digger that's been filed for trademark by tons of people in different ways. The reason that I know it's not going to happen is that when it's examined, they're going to realize that if you give them Gold Digger for keychains, there's going to be great confusion over the people who've had Gold Digger for all these other things, because you may not know, wait, adult site, that sounds like it totally could be Jordon Hudson. I mean, maybe Bill Belichick. There's got to be a category for that when you're over 18. I'm very confused here when I go buy goods or items that are part of a Gold Digger existing trademark. I'm very confused, but when I buy jewelry and a keychain, I won't be confused because I'll know that's Jordon Hudson and Bill Belichick. No. Trail of salty tears. They filed 17 different trademarks. I love Hudson and Belichick, and just shows Hudson is, I'm going to say this nicely, but Eddie the Eagle would well describe Hudson right now. And the reason I say that she's over her skis is that when people are doing this, like fishing, it's like when you go domain fishing and you save a bunch of domain names like Marlins.com, MiamiMarlins.com, when there's a new ballpark coming and you may need to get that site or have the right to sell it. You do these trademarks with the concept like Pat Riley did, and he makes money all the time on back-to-back-to-back or three-peat, whatever it is that he trademarked. You're trying to just find things. It's like people who sit around on a random Tuesday afternoon and say, I've got the invention. Oh, my God, I'm going to be rich. I want to invent something that shades me from the sun and stops sun cancer, skin cancer from happening. I've got this great invention. If there were an actual invention for everyone who says they have a great invention, then boy, oh boy, there wouldn't be room for a lot more inventions. If everyone were as rich as they claim they are or are going to be, then there would be no middle class and no lower class. The people who go hunting for trademarks like this are trying to own stuff because then they want to try to monetize it, and they think, oh, for sure, if I can just get a copyright for Gold Digger, I can do a whole set of jewelry and people are going to want to buy it because there's so many gold diggers around. And all we're going to have to do is look for some Mays, look for some Decembers, figure out who's who, what's what, and then get them to buy because they'll want to be associated with me, Jordon Hudson. It is so misguided, hard for me to believe. The trademark will be objected to. There's no question in my mind. It will be objected to by the owners of the trademark Gold Digger. Yet Jordon Hudson will have gotten her wish because People Magazine covered it. Nothing Personal covered it. All over the country, it's being covered by media that's in and out of sports. Why? Because it's Bill Belichick and Jordon Hudson. And I say, who cares? I'm more interested in the legal aspect of this, that you think you can actually get a trademark. And then I realized, darn it, I got it wrong. They're not trying to get the trademark for Gold Diggers. They're trying to get us to talk about that they're trying to get the trademark for Gold Diggers. That's the whole game. It's almost like Jordan and Bill Belichick worked for Jerry Jones. They figured out a way to get everyone to talk about them without doing it in a serious way. I tip my chapeau. You gold digger, you. I want to end with a quick note. I was a little hard on Anthony Volpe of the New York Yankees because I was so upset that I got my wait to see wrong and that the Yankees started him. And I want to formally apologize. I don't mean to be hard on you, Anthony Volpe. I was merely trying to say that you can't hit. I was trying to say that there is no reason for you to be in the lineup. And I was trying to say, and I apologize, I really do. I was trying to say I can't understand the thought process that Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone had that you are still in the lineup. It's the same thought process that keeps Giancarlo Stanton out of the lineup every day. Maybe it's preservation. The Yankees have been on a tear. They're on, like when they started the season against the Brewers, they're scoring runs. They won 11-2 yesterday, and everything's great again. The Yankees are in prime playoff position. No problem. Even Nick Turturro's happy. But in an 11-2 game against the Nationals, our guy Volpe got the start again and took the collar 0 for 5. Forget the fact that he's hitting 204, which is barely above the Mendoza line. You don't want to talk about average. That's fine. How about the fact he doesn't get on base ever? You can have some holes in your lineup for sure. And I don't want to mean, Anthony, that you don't deserve to be that hole in the lineup because you deserve as much as anybody. I'm in. Where are you, New York? Make the change. Make the change. We've got a great second hour coming up because if you play your cards right, you're going to have a guest who you are going to love to hear from. We'll put a tear in your eye. We'll do it all after the break. Welcome back to hour 2 of Nothing Personal on this Thursday, August 28th, 2025. And you know what it means when it's Thursday? It means we have a guest. And I've been trying to get this guest since the beginning of our show because this player holds a special place in my heart. And you're going to find out why. You may know him because you did not want to face him, either at the plate or on the mound. We are lucky to have Mike Hampton. Come on, Mike. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Dave. How's it going? Thanks for having me on.
It's so good to see you. And we go back decades. And I want to start right back when the Marlins were winning the World Series in 2003 to the year before when I tried personally to acquire you. It was the key to what I thought would be us competing to win a World Series. We had a trade worked out to get you from Colorado, and you said, no, thank you.
Something along those lines. I remember it vividly. And I think I'm pretty sure my words were, you got a great young team, but I got to go with a guarantee, and the Braves are about as close as guaranteed to win a pennant.
I want to remind people what that means. When you get a no trade clause, which is what Mike Hampton had when he signed his deal with the Rockies. And the question was, we were doing a very big trade, trading Charles Johnson and Preston Wilson to Colorado. And we were trying to get Juan Pierre, who you played with in Colorado. Yeah. And we were trying to get you because we wanted to add a veteran starting pitcher to our rotation who had a bunch of young guys. But you had to give permission. You had to waive your no trade clause. Yeah. And we did a call with you. Larry Beinfest, the GM, and I did a call with you. And you said that you loved the team, but you wanted to go to Atlanta. And they were not part of the trade discussion at all. And so we wanted to get Pierre. We wanted to get Johnson and Wilson off our books. So we had to call Atlanta. And that's when a trade came together, and we got Tim Spooneybarger, and you got to go to Atlanta. And then what was it like watching us, the young team, in that year get past the Cubs and then go to the World Series?
Oh, man, that was a year of what ifs, for sure. I remember talking to you just recently in Cooperstown, and I was like, I can see your passion still. I said, if we'd have talked face to face, I think I'd have probably had a different answer for you. But man, that's definitely a regret. I mean, I'm one of those players that, and I don't know if it's the case anymore with players, but I played for a World Series. I played to win a World Series. You know, I got there once. I felt like I'd be able to do it again, but that opportunity never happened. But I do regret that decision for sure.
Tell me the thought process when you go to the Subway Series and you lose, because I had this conversation with Miguel Cabrera and Dontrell Willis when they won as rookies. And the thought was in their mind, they're going to get one for the thumb. Like they viewed it that every year they would be back in the World Series and winning a World Series. And neither one of them got another ring the rest of their careers. What's it like after you lose a World Series, thinking to yourself, all right, we climbed the mountain, we didn't quite get there, but this feels like something that we can repeat?
That's just it. You know, like I was 28, 29 when we made it to the World Series. I had a good NLCS. You know, things didn't go as well as I'd wanted in the World Series, but I remember clinching when I clinched in the NLCS. I gave the ball to John Franco, veteran player, like this, you know, it was a big moment for me, but I'm like, man, you've never been here. Like, I'll get another chance, but you may never get another chance. And I remember giving him that ball where we got the last out with in the NLCS. And just, you know, like I said, being naive and thinking that I would get back, not really understanding how difficult it was and how all the pieces had to come together at the right time, had to be winning, you had to be, you know, good mindset. And, you know, we had a good mix of veteran players and young players. I really thought that, you know, that was the formula. And, you know, let's just take that, you know, into the World Series every year. And boy, was I wrong.
Take me behind the scenes when you're clinching the pennant and you were the NLCS MVP. And that is no small feat. We have big bonuses in our contracts with players for NLCS MVP and World Series MVP because it means good things are happening. Mike, I always like those bonuses better than any others, even better than Cy Young, because we were willing to give more money for NLCS and World Series, because if we're winning that, it means the whole team is doing well. But in theory, you can win a Cy Young or an MVP on a last place team. Tell me what's going through your head as you're finishing up that NLCS.
I mean, this is just one of those series where you're just so locked in. Like, I was so confident. I felt like there was no way I was going to lose. That was just one of those moments where I was super confident. And to have that feeling in New York, to be on the mound in New York, last out, like there's no better feeling in the world. That was for me at a young age to have that be like the pinnacle of my career and be like, I'm like, man, I'm going to get back here. I want this feeling like every year. There's nothing like that feeling. I was brought in for that reason. They made it to the NLCS the year before, had some big wins and stuff like that. And, I was kind of that missing piece. So I remember starting the season pretty tough. I would believe I was 2-7 or so, like a 6-something ERA, just really, really trying to do too much. But when that all came full circle and being the guy on the mound, having my confidence back, and having my teammates around me, and no better feeling in the world than winning in New York and being lifted up on that by my players, by my peers, by the guys that went to battle with the 162 games. So pretty special feeling, and I can still get goosebumps when I talk about it.
When you look at today's pitchers, look at a Paul Skenes, who is just built like a Mack truck, and he's thumbing it up at 100 miles an hour. The average velocity is just something spectacular. But we're having such a rash of injuries, and it's a little recency bias in that there were injuries before. But when you look at pitching now versus pitching, about 20 years ago, what would you say is the biggest difference?
I mean, I've actually done a little bit of research on this because I got a son that's 10. I've been coaching a lot of the Little League and a lot of stuff, and I've been watching it pretty closely. I'm on a board at Little League. I'll tell you, it's just a lot for me. It's a lot of overuse at a young age. A lot of these guys have so much wear and tear and so many miles on their arm by the time they get to high school and college, and then into the lower levels of the minor leagues. I just feel that there's not enough rest. I feel like our society now is light up the radar gun. Let me see what the triple digits, if I can hit triple digits. I think a lot of our training has just is focused on velocity, not on being a complete pitcher. I will say I feel Screwball, I feel Skenes they have that big body. I do feel like they might be a little bit of a throwback. They use their lower half really well. But I just think as a whole, I think just a lot too much too soon, breaking balls too soon. Like I could just go on and on. I played multiple sports. I played football, I played baseball, I played basketball, I wrestled, I ran track. I mean, whatever season was, I was doing that. And I felt it helped my game, my main sport, and my two main sports by the time I was a junior and senior in high school, which were football and baseball. I'd narrowed it down to things that I was pretty good at, but I didn't really overstress my body. And I feel like a lot of times today, these guys got a lot of mileage on the body before they even get to 20, 22 years old.
But take a look at the other side of it, Mike. And if you're putting a team together, if you're the GM of your little league team, and now just pretend you're the GM of a big league team, and what is wrong with churning through? Now, forgive how I'm characterizing this, but what's wrong with churning through pitchers where let them throw as hard as they can for as long as they can, and then when they blow out, you move on to the next one if they can't come back? If you're building a team, and this is what you're faced with, where you look at what hitters are doing, because remember, hitters are getting down on the knob. It's about velocity, launch angle. It's about home runs, because that's what pays. Do you have a different view if you were in charge of building a team versus what because you were so good as a major league pitcher?
Oof, man, yeah, like it's hard not to follow in that trend. I'm really good friends with a lot of guys that I played with, a lot of pitchers, a lot of middle relievers, guys that pitched some leverage, seventh and eighth inning, and they, when they were making $300,000 and $400,000 and $500,000, where today that's an $8 to $9 to $12 million job. It's like, man, y'all are a little too soon. That just the way we utilize our bullpens now has totally changed the game. I'm not sure it's for the better just because I'm a starting pitcher. I prefer the guys, going out there shooting for 7+ innings, and then give it to your setup guy and your closer. But now it seems like the team's full of setups guys and closers, from pretty much the sixth inning on. So the game has changed. I think if the fans, which I think we're always gearing things towards the fans and what they like, they like to see that. I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. I feel sorry for the players, to be used like that. But I mean, if it is what it is, let's change free agency. Let's stop, paying these guys when they're old like me, when I get the contract right before my body breaks down. Let's start paying these guys when they're 22, 23 years old, when they, and instead of waiting until 6 years of free agency. Well, let's look at it, change that landscape. If we're going to utilize those players and abuse them like that, then let's abuse the system and make money a little earlier. So there's ways, I guess, you can get around that.
So your view would be to grant free agency. Would you differentiate between pitchers and hitters?
Well, I mean, now unless you can do both like Ohtani, right? It puts himself in a different category.
Mike, I want to get back to that. Coca's going to kill me for going to a different subject. You were like Shohei Ohtani. You raked, and I don't know if people can see if you're watching on the Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel. If you're listening to this, Mike Hampton, who we're talking to, is surrounded by Silver Slugger awards. Because when we did pitchers meetings and hitters meetings, when we faced you, Mike, you should know this, we prepared for you not like a pitcher. We prepared for you like a hitter. And the number of pitchers we did that with, I can count on one hand over 18 years.
Yeah, that's pretty wise of you. I honestly, I probably took it more serious than most, but I was in the cage. I was, taking extra BP. I mean, I needed all the runs I could get. So, I mean, I'm out there, I'm trying to steal bases. I'm taking an extra base. If I'm in the box and I hit it in a gap, I'm thinking triple out of the box. Most guys aren't, I'm doing what I can. I was just brought up to compete. And regardless of what you're doing, you not have to be the best at it, but as long as you know how to compete, and I always could compete with the best of them. I could always hang. So I think
does it give you, though, Mike, do you look at Ohtani today and do you have a different level of respect or understanding of what he's doing? Because the truth is, in my career, I never thought of it this way. You're the closest to Shohei Ohtani that I've seen since 2000. And so do you look at what he's doing and think to yourself, man, I would have loved to have been in the lineup every day?
There's no doubt about it. Now, I'm not saying that I would have been him or been close to him. He's proven me wrong. I just felt it almost be impossible to be a good pitcher and a good hitter. I just like to be able to do both. I mean, there's a lot of stress and pressure that goes along with each position you play. So just, imagine it's heightened with that. But I would have loved the opportunity. I'll tell you this. I'm not sure if I can hit as an everyday big leaguer, but I could have played outfield as an everyday big leaguer. There was a defense I'd loved playing. When I was in high school, when I was in playing tournaments and things like that, I got more satisfaction out of robbing balls in the gap than I did throwing a shutout. I just loved the look on a guy's face when he thought he had a gap and he was out. So I took pride in that. But I would have loved that opportunity. I'm interested to see if there's any more guys coming along that are going to be given a chance. But he's a special player for sure.
Are you aware of your ranks since 1975? So just whatever, call it the last 50 years. Are you aware where you rank among pitchers who hit, for example, in home runs? Do you have any idea?
No, I've never.
You're
really.
Third in the last 50 years, but you're first in average. You hit 246. Do you realize that you are roughly, under my math, let me count, you're a $25 million offensive player right now.
Oh man, if my fake hip and knee could hear you talk, I'll give it a shot. That, what, like, I just talk about like being prideful and really caring about it. When I was drafted by Seattle, so I went to American League teams. I was drafted in '90, and I was in there until '94. I never didn't see a live pitch. And then, I'm in a reliever in '94 with the Astros. I had a few at bats, and then I was a starter from '95 on. So then I had to start hitting. I hit my first 2 years. I want to say I hit under 200, hit 130, 160, something like that. I just took a while to catch up to that speed. When I was in high school, I was raking 78 to 82 mile an hour fastballs. then I'm seeing stuff that's, 92 to 96. I'm like, different level. But it took me a while to catch on. But once I caught on, probably about my third year, I kind of started catching up with the speed of the game. Then I felt pretty comfortable. I felt like I had a chance to beat you in the box as well as I did on the mound.
So other than Ohtani, when you look at today's pitchers, who reminds you of you the most?
Pitcher wise?
Yes.
Well, I mean,
because you had pitchability, Mike. You had velocity. You had control. You had command. I was trying to think before the show what your weakness was, and I was thinking back to our hitters meetings when you were at sort of your peak, and the hitters meetings were rough. We went in when you were on the board, when you were facing us. It just was bad, and we just would go in. It's a terrible feeling. And it's what baseball is trying to do now. They're trying to get starting pitching back because starting pitching matters. Because when you go into a series and you don't see a place for you to win a game, it causes immense pressure on the offense. And you were that guy.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed starting pitching so much. And I just felt like, that was kind of the quarterback, like how I go, we went. And same for that, the other four starters. You set the tone, and what I tried to do is I tried to not give you a place to go. I had a sinker that would go down and away. I had a cutter that would go down and in. I tried to make you guess, and when you guess, you still had to guess where he's going to move, and you had to guess that you had to still hit the movement. So I just tried to not be predictable. I tried to cut it in on guys that were maybe looking away, or sink it when they were a guy looking to cut it. Just trying to move it around. And getting back to the starting pitching and the way we pitch now, it just seems like there's so many max effort fastballs that are just pretty much center cut. Now, they're hard to catch up to, but if you get your timing on it, it's going to go a long, long way. So, I think we pitched more to the corners. I know me with my stuff, living probably 88 to 92, with movement, and I could touch 94, 95 if I needed to, but, that's not what I was going to pitch at. So I just had to control what I can control within what I could do. And for me, it was, my success was probably taking some off, learning how to thumb a sinker in there at 82, 83 instead of at 89, and then pop a four-seamer in your hands at 92, and then look like I missed a four-seamer in, and that's my 87-mile-an-hour cutter that you thought it was a fastball. So just kind of playing game like that. But now I just feel like it's a lot of grip and rip and max effort sliders, max effort fastballs, and it's dirty and it's hard to hit, but it's a little more inconsistent, I think, as well.
It's incredibly frustrating to me that today's pitching coaches and today's GMs and today's presidents don't understand that you can pitch at 88 to 96. Let's just say your range, and you had a range that was 79 sometimes to 95. And if you have command of your pitches, people don't remember. That was Greg Maddux, who's in Cooperstown with the plaque. He had velocity, but his career went on well past when his velocity dipped. We've seen Clayton Kershaw ending the month of August with a sub-2 ERA, going 5-0, getting misses on his curveball, his fastball. He doesn't touch 90 anymore, basically. Yet he gets people out, and I don't understand why executives don't see that the grip and rip lighting up the radar is actually not pitching.
It's not. It's a lot of time you're gifted with stuff. I'm not a guy that thinks that if you throw 90, if you do the right mechanics, you do the right workout, that you can also throw 98. I just feel like you're gifted with a certain range, and you can get the peak of that range. But some guys, no matter what they do, they just don't have good arms. Like Barry Bonds, great outfielder, could got in the right spot, got rid of the ball quick, but he didn't have a super, super strong arm, but he just made the right throw. So there's other ways to do it. And with pitching, getting back to that grip and rip, it just looks exciting for fans, because it's 100, because it's 98, it's a lot, but they sacrifice the location by doing that.
Well, but it's not even just fans though, because executives and analytics say that the grip and rip is who we want. It's what we want. We want guys throwing a hundo. And again, going back to where we started, if they blow out, they blow out. Every other day, it's a new Evaldi having a great season, flexor strain. Just yesterday, Trevor Megill of the Brewers, the closer, out, flexor strain. It's every day. And that is something that executives understand. And it impacts who gets long-term contracts because they don't work, because of all the players blowing out. Yet the analytics departments say, keep going, keep finding the guys who grip and rip, and we'll keep signing them and going through them.
I mean, now are they still getting insured? I'm wondering how that looks. I mean, are these, because I know when I was playing, they would insure pretty much every body part. Something happened, all right, we're covered. But I mean, I gotta imagine it's kind of like having a nice home on a floodplain. Like, probably going to be tough to get insurance. So the arm's the same way. How can I insure it when I know like physics say you're not able to throw that hard for that long?
So we would self-insure for the most part. Once in a while, we'd insure a contract, but really never a pitcher. But did you take insurance? Do you think players should actually take insurance? I'm thinking about, this is an old reference that only you and I may get, and 42% of our audience, but Mary Hart used to insure her legs, the host of Entertainment Tonight. Did you ever think to insure your arm?
I did. Was it Lloyd's of London, I want to say, my agent and I, Marc Rogers, when we were going into free agency, we did have insure my arm for that year. I mean, our contracts are guaranteed once they sign them, right? So, but we did look into going to something happen. But yeah, we did a year where we did an insurance contract on my arm.
Do you remember whether it was an insurance? Was it against a tendon issue? Was it just your elbow? Was your shoulder insured as well?
I want to say it was against like not being able to compete at the level, there was language in it that, not being able to pitch again at the level that I was prior to injury and surgery, depending on what that was.
It's a fascinating conversation because you look at pitchers now and some of them get deals, some of them don't. And you have to decide as an executive who you are going to bet your money on, because consistency, people talk about Paul Skenes right now, saying, how can Pittsburgh, they're going to lose him, they're not going to sign him, give him $300 million right now. But if you're the Pirates, you look at Paul Skenes, aren't you worried every day that he's going to blow out?
No doubt. I mean, all of these young studs, all these guys that are, it seems like guys that are, were 93, 94 5 years ago are now 97 and 99. Like, I mean, I would be scared every time he takes him out. I mean, he's the one guy that, just for the Pirates, if you're not winning games, he's the one guy that if you go Pittsburgh Pirates, you go Paul Skenes, right? I mean, that's the guy. So, what a blow that would be to have him, go down with an injury and miss significant time. If he misses a year and a half with Tommy John, like, what's your next move? What's your next pivot? Do they have those guys down in the, in the minor leagues that are, like you said, are ripping at 98, but with commandability like he has? That's where he separates himself. He's able to, I still feel he can throw harder, but I think he's under control because he's able to actually locate. He's able to actually do things like Screwball, like the same. Like, these guys have a plan, and you can see that. And you can see some young kids that don't have a plan, and those guys, I think have learned a long way. I think they probably had some bumps in the road when they're younger, but that's what it takes. It takes to experience some failure to understand what it takes to get back up again. If you're not facing any failure until you get in the big leagues, it's a tough place to learn.
There's no doubt. We wanted people to fail in the minor leagues, believe it or not. So Coca spends my life in my ear, and he has an answer to who he thinks is your comp today. And I want your reaction. He came up with Framber Valdez of the Astros. Bulldog, lefty, ground ball pitcher, someone you love to have on the mound, does not take kindly to anyone getting hits off him, has great command. He's got good velocity. How do you like that comp? Is Coca doing his job?
I think he nailed it. Other than him probably, having quite a bit more velo. Yeah, our stuff was very similar. His mound presence. I think he cares. He cares about what happens, right? He cares about being there. It's not just about, the numbers for him. I think he cares that his team wins. I just like the way he approaches the game. And honestly, he's pitched some really big games, and he's dependable. And to have that guy in your rotation, every fifth day, and he's been healthy. He's been able to do a lot of great things. So yeah, I think that's a really good comp. I was going to say a Monica. He's a little bitty guy like me. From the Cubs. He's got some pretty good movement on his pitches. I like the way he sinks it, and he's got that little sweep and slider that he throws. So that's pretty good. But I think Framber Valdez definitely nailed it.
We were in Cooperstown together, and we saw a bullpen arm get put into the Hall of Fame. a lefty who's a little guy like we are, throwing upper 90s. And I don't know that you played with him, but man, Billy Wagner was something else.
I was we were together with the Astros. So I was actually the starting pitcher when we were facing the Giants, and he came in and he went through Barry Bonds, Matt Williams, and I think it was either Ellis Burks or Glenn Allen Hill. And that's when he pretty much announced his presence. He came in, I left him in trouble, bases loaded, and he comes in. I'm like, here we go. Bing, bing, bitches. I just I hadn't seen it before. I'd never seen anybody throw that hard before. And especially coming at a guy like my size, I was like, what? Yeah, we're not built the same, bro. He could friggin' bring it.
From the left side, like a rising fastball that looked about $105 as it was coming at your ear, and there was no way to catch up to it.
No, short arm too. Just put it right there, and and I was a long arm, real long behind. He would just stick it there and just, man, it was special.
We called you the pitching machine.
Yeah.
Because that's basically what you were. Every day you kept going. Mike, we're out of time. You promised me 25. Thank you for doing this. This is Mike Hampton. You remember him as the NLCS MVP. You don't remember him as the World Series winning pitcher for the Marlins. But looking back, we would have been great together. Mike, thank you so much for your time.
I appreciate you. Look forward to catching up when I get to New York.
Take care. When you decide, thank you, Mike, by the way, that was fun for me. When you decide what you're doing when you buy a team, one of the first most important decisions you have to make is who's going to run your team. I remember when I was asked to run the Expos and the Marlins, thinking about the responsibility that was. I had been in business before. I'd been on Wall Street before. I'd run a business before. But when you get into sports, it's a totally different animal. It's a very public job. You're running a private company that everyone thinks that they deserve to know everything about because it's public. They deserve to second guess you. I'm in with all of that. But it takes a special kind of, and it doesn't mean I'm smarter than anybody else at all, or that other people could not have done what I did. But what it takes is the ability to understand things that other people don't want to have to think about. And that's the case whether you're running a sports team or any other business, or when you're doing anything in a leadership position. And choosing that person as a new owner, that's a big one. Alex Rodriguez and Marc Lore are the new owners of the Minnesota Timberwolves. We've talked about the deal they made, the arbitration they won over Glenn Taylor, who wanted to not do the sale, the step transaction. You remember the deal. You remember the fact that A-Rod, for his unbelievable career, just what he was able to do on the field, this business deal off the field is better than any play he made on the field, and it's frankly not even relatively close. Made billions of dollars already in value that has not been realized, but in order to realize it, either you have to sell or you start turning a profit, and you start by hiring a team CEO. And word came out yesterday that the biggest hire of A-Rod's career is someone named Matthew Caldwell. Matthew Caldwell has been a friend of mine for a decade, maybe more, because that's the same Matthew Caldwell who you may have seen with the Stanley Cup. That's the same Matthew Caldwell who came in as the COO of the Florida Panthers when Vinny Viola took over the Florida Panthers, the hockey team, turned the entire organization around, was then named CEO, running the whole show up there, down there in Broward. I thought that he and Vinny Viola would ride into the sunset together. And when I read that Alex had hired Matthew Caldwell, the first thing I thought of is, wow, A-Rod got this more right than anyone realizes. Because the person who's being brought in to run the Timberwolves and run the Lynx and figure out what to do with Target Center and rebuild an entire front office, which the T-Wolves have to do given the changes that were made immediately upon taking over, working together with the basketball operations group in order to bring an NBA championship to Minnesota. You have to have a person who has the ability to get to Minnesota from Florida, start September 2nd, and know what the hell he's doing. Matthew Caldwell will join the Timberwolves this coming Tuesday, right after Labor Day. And he will immediately start what is always step one when you're a new CEO, and that is he will go on an LT, a listening tour. He will go listen to people within the organization, people in the community. He will go talk to sponsors, partners. He will understand exactly what is the situation in Minnesota. And then he will also realize that he's got to deal with off-the-court issues, like what we talked about in the first hour. He will have to deal with how teams respond, what statements are made about things that happen that are not in his control. He will have to deal with how to say no to a new owner, how to get a new owner to buy in that being Matt Ishbia is not the way to go. He will have to figure out how to work with Alex and Marc, and he's got a decade to do it. A 10-year contract is what Matthew Caldwell got. And you could say that there's poaching that went on, and yeah, that's exactly right. Poaching is what happens every single day within organizations when presidents are talking to other owners, when search firms are speaking to other presidents, and everyone is in a small group of people who are candidates to keep doing jobs in different leagues, different teams, different cities, more responsibility, more money, more power, all in the name of success in two places: on the court with wins and off the court with increased asset valuation. I am very excited and proud of this hire and proud of Matt Caldwell for picking up his family and taking a chance. You're taking a chance with Alex, with Marc. You're taking a chance in a great place to live. The winters, get ready. Get the kids ready. Buy some parkas. It's cold. There are tunnels there, but it's cold. But the good news is that you found the right guy to lead an organization at the right time. And the Minnesota Timberwolves, with Matthew Caldwell at the helm and A-Rod in the chair. He's the alternate governor, but make no mistake, A-Rod has his fingerprints all over this organization and all over all of these hires and trades that Minnesota's done. And that leaves Minnesota in really good, capable hands. We will obviously see how it goes because there's easy ways to measure success. Holding the Stanley Cup, good. Bounced in the first round, play-in tournament, bad. Owners decide when they're going to start, when they're going to finish. They try to figure out what team they want to buy, how they can buy it. They sometimes spend decades trying to buy a team, don't end up buying a team. They start as a limited partner. They end up as a general partner. They start as a general partner, end up as a limited partner. There are all sorts of ways that owners get involved. And once they get involved, the next decision is, when's the exit? Do you exit in a pine box horizontally? Do you exit prior due to estate planning? Do you wait for the high? What do you do? Do you look at the labor agreements? Do you look at your team's performance? What do you think went through Mark Cuban's mind when he sold the Mavericks? Man, I don't want to be the one to trade Luka. Can't be me. I don't want to be responsible for that. Nah, that wasn't in his mind. How about this? I got a chance to get a huge price from Miriam Adelson. Well, people may think it's her son-in-law, Patrick Dumont, but it's not. It's Miriam Adelson. I may get a good price, and this would be really good. I can't own the team forever. I got to do estate planning. How about if I sell right now? But I am going to maintain control. I'm going to go full Wyc Grousbeck. Oh, no, that didn't happen. I'm going to go full Mark Cuban. I'm going to sell the team, cash out, keep 27% of the team, and keep running the team. And I said, hold on, that's not going to work. Everyone said, of course it's going to work. That's the deal. Samson, you're totally wrong. Then Luka gets traded, and the next thing we hear is Mark Cuban saying, I had nothing to do with that. Well, I thought you were in control. Oh, no, in control. I got nothing. I got no seat at the table. Zero. Interesting. Well, Mark Cuban is not happy. He is one bitter man. He's rich. I don't mean Bitterman, the chauffeur from Arthur. I mean a bitter man, not a serious man, a bitter one. How does a bitter former owner manifest itself? What do? What would you think they do? They want to stay in the spotlight, baby. They want to keep getting talked about. They don't want to disappear into the night, become forgotten, become ordinary, become unimportant, have no one take their calls. So what do? You keep talking about stuff so incorrectly and making stuff up that people inside the industry are like, what's going on with this dude? Mark Cuban went on a podcast, and this is according to Mike Curtis of the Dallas Morning News. He went on the DLLS Mavs podcast, and Cuban started discussing not only selling the stake in the team to Patrick Dumont and Miriam Adelson, but he said something even more interesting. He said that he was pushed out by the NBA and that he had a key position that he was going to have in the organization going forward, and the NBA said no. According to Cuban, the NBA stepped in. There was a clause in his contract when he sold the team that would give him the right to be in every meeting, every trade discussion, everything. And the NBA removed the provision. Horse hockey. I happen to know that the NBA is not in the business of removing provisions that call for a limited partner to have consultation rights, for a limited partner to have the ability to be in the room where it happens. The NBA is interested in who the governor is, who the alternate governor is. That's another word for who's the control person, who's responsible. And you have to own more than 15% of the team. Mark Cuban has 27. I guess he could be the governor. Except Miriam Adelson and Patrick Dumont said, no, you're not the governor anymore. Patrick's going to be the governor. You don't own the team anymore. And when it's convenient for Mark and he gets to say, I wouldn't have traded Luka, that's one thing. When it's not convenient for Mark and he has to say, man, the NBA, they screwed me. I had a high position, ready to be consulted, ready to run basketball operations until the NBA said no. I've been involved in so many transactions. Do you know how many transactions that the league gets involved in who the GM is going to be? None. Do you know how many transactions where the league gets involved in a provision that calls for limited partner rights and a right of being inside a meeting and being a part of trade discussions? Wait for it, none. But Mark Cuban is adamant. Mark Cuban's reality, ego-fueled and now totally irrelevant, disappearing, no one cares anymore. But Mark Cuban wants you to believe that he got screwed by the man. That's funny when the man says he got screwed by the man. That's a man in the man. But it's just not the case. Mark Cuban offered. This is really so special. It makes me smile. There's a sports writer named Mark Stein who said, hey, Mark, the NBA is disputing the claim that they were the ones who wanted a provision taken out of the contract. And Mark Cuban responded by saying, I'll show Mark Stein proof. Cuban said, who the hell do you think took it out? I mean, I've got the letter from my lawyer saying the NBA made us remove it. Really? Do you have social media? Do you have a platform, Mr. Cuban? Remember, this is the same Mark Cuban who wanted to buy a baseball team, and those of us in the owner's room said there is no way Mark Cuban's buying a baseball team. We are not allowing that guy in the room, and all of a sudden he didn't buy a baseball team, and that's when he went and bought the Mavericks, because we'd said, votes, you don't have the votes. You're not even close to the votes. I'd say the rest is history, but wouldn't you agree that if you have the proof of something, why wouldn't you just show it? You want to redact names? Show me a provision. And then we'll get the NBA to say, I have no idea what that document is. Because the role of the league, you sign documents when you buy a team. You've got contractual privity with the league, and you've got contractual privity, which means a relationship, a first stage relationship, a direct relationship with the person you're buying the team from or the person you're selling the team to. So it's two sets of contracts. It's like a triangle. Everybody is related, but the buyer has a deal with the seller. The buyer has a deal with baseball. The seller has a deal with the buyer, and the seller has a deal with baseball. All of these things happen. And the NBA has lawyers. They've got inside lawyers. They've got outside lawyers. What the lawyers do is they make sure that the agreement between the buyer and the seller, they have to approve that, making sure that that agreement doesn't violate any rules of the league, doesn't violate the constitution of the league. The new owners have to be vetted by the league and the finance committees and the ownership committees to make sure that these are people you want to associate with. Query, do you want to associate with Miriam Adelson? No. That's why Patrick Dumont is the governor. But who's fooling who? The NBA thought they were being really smart. We're not going to have Miriam Adelson in there. She's too old. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. But in terms of the other 180 pages of a deal or even more, and I've got the deals right behind me in a binder, hundreds of pages of the transactions of buying teams and selling teams in a bound volume, Coca. There is nowhere, because I also have all the drafts. I also have every single red line in every negotiation with Major League Baseball. Not one time did they have a comment or a thought. Now, are they aware of what your payroll is going to be? Yes. Are they aware of who you're going to have to trade? Yes. Are they aware of whether or not you make money? Yes. Are they aware of what your business plan is? Yes. Are they aware of what your 100-day plan is? Yes. Do they come back and say, no, you can't trade blank? No. Do they come back and say you can't hire blank? No. Do they come back and say you've got to move to the American League? Yes, they do that. Jim Crane, he was only able to buy the Astros if he moved them into the American League. So there are certain things Major League Baseball or the NBA or the NFL will do. But telling Mark Cuban that he can't be in meetings? What Mark Cuban knew not from the NBA, he knew it from the buyer, Adelson, that he was not going to be in control anymore. And man, was it convenient when Luka got traded. I guess the fact is, Coca, that I'm just frustrated that he continues to try to prey on the idiocy of others. And it's not right. It's my job to inform you and let you know that you're being hoodwinked. The NFL is funny. I do love it. I'm excited. Week 1 is coming up. Isn't there a game, Coca? Is it a week from today that NFL Week 1 starts? Do I have that right by chance? Or is that way too early? Isn't the first, I do have that right? Is it the Eagles Cowboys on Thursday? Wow. We are a week away from the NFL season. Coca sounds terrible in my ear. I don't know if he's sick, if he's angry, if he's upset. I can't tell. I'm always bad at that. It's sort of reading people like, oh, are you unhappy right now? 1 week from now, the NFL starts, and then we start the regular season as we head into the NFL playoffs, the Super Bowl. It's going to be all about football, NFL, college football. But something you're going to read about are all these international games that are happening. Remember, you've got the Steelers are playing a game in Ireland. You've got the Dolphins going to Berlin, I think. You've got the Jaguars, of course, going to London. You have all sorts of these interesting international games that are taking place. And this is coming on the heels of the leak of the Super Bowl possibly going to London. And then you remember we were lucky enough to have Mina Kimes as a guest who said on Nothing Personal, I don't know, man, the Super Bowl in London, that makes a lot more sense than regular season games. These regular season international games are brutal. Players don't love it. Fans don't love it. The travel stinks. It's all sorts of issues. But then you've got Roger Goodell, who continues to double down on the international games. He doesn't want 7 international games, and that's how many there are this year. He wants 1 a week. And I've told you on Nothing Personal that I believe the future of the NFL will be an 18-game season. The preseason will get cut again, and there will be an international game every single week of the season. It'll become like interleague in baseball. It was super exciting when it started. Everyone was jumping in 2007. Let's go to London and watch the Giants play the Dolphins. And now it's a yawner because it's just ordinary. But there's a little provision in the collective bargaining agreement which says that we, the players, agree to a total of 10 international games. That's it. And if you want to do more than 10 in a season, you're going to have to come back and we're going to have to amend the CBA. And when we amend the CBA, we're going to ask for stuff. We're not just going to do it. So football has been very smart. Last year they did 5. This year they did 7. And there is no player approval required because they already approved it in the CBA, all the way up to 10. The executive vice president of the NFL is someone named Peter O'Reilly, and he said growing globally is a huge priority for ours, and games are a piece of that, but we're not at that 10 number yet. We'll have any of those appropriate conversations and necessary conversations should we look to get to that number that's referenced in the CBA. What he meant is that once they want to go over 10, they'll get to that conversation, but up to and including 10, they don't need to have the conversation. They're not going to have the conversation. So what is he trying to say? He's trying to say, we're going to 10. I want to give you an official wait to see on this. For all of you who think that it's being watered down, it's too much international, I'm going to give you an official wait to see where we tell you something's going to happen. If it does, great. If not, I promise you, we'll visit it again. August 28, 2025. 2026 NFL season will have more than 7 international games. Wait to see. Now, not an official wait to see, because that's the whole one. In 2026, there will be more than 7 international games, because 7's the number this year, up from 5 last year. I'm not going to tell you officially it's going to be 8, 9, or 10. What I could tell you officially, and I could add it to a Coca if you want me to, there won't be 11. You can bet your sweet pipsters on that, because the NFL, like any league, they have zero interest in reopening a CBA during the term of a CBA. It leads to problems. It leads to conflict. It leads to more vitriol between sides where you're trying to have peace during the CBA, so you're in position to negotiate the next one without a work stoppage. You don't want to create the problem until you have to. It's not unlike any other relationship where there is some sort of perceived inequality. You have to choose your moments to enforce and to remind people of that inequality. Think of sort of King George and Hamilton. Like, it's only once during each act that you'll come out and say, hey, you'll be back. Can't you see? You don't do it every scene. You don't want to remind the people that, hey, they were much happier under the British reign than they are independently with their own government. You don't want to remind players that, wow, we got that CBA. Yeah, we got to reopen that. You were upset about 10. We want more. You just don't do that as a philosophy. You don't do it as a strategy. Because everything that leagues do as it relates to players, it doesn't matter if it's the NFL, NBA, MLB, it doesn't matter. Everything is strategy-based. Everything is done with an eye toward the next CBA, the next negotiation. Every phone call, every grievance that's filed, every ask that's made, it's all done after a conversation that's had internally, both with teams and in the commissioner's office. What's the impact of the ask? What is it that we think we are sacrificing? Because in CBA negotiating, you never want to give away a thing before you absolutely have to, and before you get something back in return for giving up that which you gave up. And when you are calling on something like international games, where you know that that's going to be part of the next CBA, and you're sure that you're going to get to the 18 games and the more international games, you don't want to do it prematurely. It's why these negotiations go up to the very end. It's why they often include work stoppages and lockouts or a strike, because you have to get to the edge of the cliff with your fingernails dangling off the end in order to get progress, because no one wants to give the inch. And the reason why you never want to give the inch is you always want to be able to say, hey, it's just business. We'll be back tomorrow with Coca. This is nothing personal.